Hey, 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 welcome back, fellow friends and baseball fans, to another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. I'm Ryan, as always, with my man Wally here. Hey, before we get this thing going, hit that subscribe button. We're now live on YouTube. Find us at Dirt Diamond Sports Talk on YouTube. Jump in live, leave us a comment. Pretty sure that we can get those through here. We're still figuring this thing out, kind of new at some of this stuff, but having a good time. Give us a subscribe. I think I said that on your favorite podcast app. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else that you like to download and listen to your podcasts on the regular. Wally, the Dodgers series was not a good one. I'm not sure if it makes me feel better or worse about these Astros, but Peter Lambert was a bright, shining small speck in this series against the Dodgers. We've hit the injury bug again with Correa and Yiner. I'm not sure what's going to hurt worse, losing Correa's production, his leadership, the roster flexibility that we kind of had with him being here. Talk a little bit about that pitching staff. Yeah, it's just talent depth problem that we've got just continues to rear its ugly head here in Houston. We're going to again jump out of the friendly confines of Houston, and we're going to chit chat a little bit about the Tampa Bay Rays. I still like to say the Devil Rays. God, those old Devil Rays uniforms were cool. What makes them so good? Is this is it something that they can keep going? Is it sustainable for those guys out there in Tampa Bay? And then we're going to take a short look ahead at road series that the Astros are taking to the state of Ohio, city of Cincinnati. Wally, 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. Game one wasn't pretty, but it wasn't super ugly. Game two, another one of those games where Houston kind of looks like, hey, this was a legit impressive win. They put together a complete ball game. And then yesterday, another complete blowout where injuries, command, roster depth, they all kind of showed up at once. Our beloved Astros are 15-23, and I we say this, and I keep saying it. The Astros aren't dead because the AL West, I mean, the AL as a whole, has decided to not really figure out baseball this year.
Yeah.
But the Astros are running out of healthy answers fast. The Dodgers outscored them 21-7 in this series, and even though the Astros got one of their best wins of the year in the middle game, um, I we keep doing this. We show up for one good game and then have these
Hey,
other
well,
games where it
so
doesn't look like they're even a major league baseball team hardly.
yeah, in the win, really, it was a microcosm of how tough it is for the Astros. When you had Lambert and you had two relievers that he could go to. I think it was King and
King.
Inyo de los Santos was the other one. I
Yep.
may not be wrong. King was, but the fact was is that Joe knew he had to roll with King because there weren't any bodies left.
Yep.
Um, they took Jason Alexander and he took his ritual beating in the third game. He gets sent out to Sugarland and Logan Van Way comes back up. There just are no bodies left. We've been talking about it all season that it's a dearth of talent. They just don't have the talent to compete, and they've got a lot of guys who are hurt. You mentioned the guys who are hurt. Everybody's gone over it over and over again, reviewed about the injuries. Correa's injury is a little different because Correa's tendon snapping looks like it's just a wear and tear issue. The
And
other
it
issues,
wasn't even the previous injured leg.
no,
It
no,
was the other leg.
yeah,
People are
no,
all
for
like,
those,
we knew this was coming, this was gonna happen because he was already all busted up. No,
yeah,
different leg.
those,
Different leg.
yeah, yeah. For people who were not aware, Carlos broke his right ankle in Lancaster in 2013, 14.
13.
Yeah,
13.
13, sliding into third base. This is a different one. You could say he's just got weak ankles. I mean, who knows? Um, the most of these are those outside of the Tommy John injuries that you've gotten from the pitchers, which are repetitive stress injuries, for lack of a better term. These soft tissue issues go straight back to the conditioning and strength and conditioning team.
100%.
You hate to throw it at somebody, but we had a change in the strength and conditioning team at the start of 2025. That's when it started. I would expect that whole operation is under an immense amount of pressure right now, because when you get obliques and you get hammies and you get
Mhm.
those sorts of soft tissue issues, it goes straight back to the strength and conditioning team.
Yep. Yep. 100%. Yeah, I mean when you look at these guys and some of the injuries, and that's, I threw some of this in a conversation out on Twitter, is, how are some of these people still employed at this point? Because so many of these types of injuries, I'm not going to say they're preventable, but these are the types of injuries that you train specifically to prevent. So it's not necessarily that they're preventable, but when you're a free swinging guy like Yiner Diaz, your training coach better darn well make sure that your obliques are strong and can handle the type of wear and tear and the beating that they're going to take, because you're a free swinging hitter like Yiner. Guys, yes, whatever, sleep funny on it, wake up, feel a little cramp, but some of these things that you're looking at from a strength and conditioning standpoint, again, these are the types of things that you train and you strengthen specifically to avoid this type of an injury going through an entire season. And so it's kind of a repetitive issue that this team has had these last couple years, where you've got guys that are getting injured, not running the bases and taking a funny slide, not slamming up against the wall and doing some crazy acrobatic BS out there in the field. This is the kind of stuff that's happening during batting practice,
Yeah.
and when you're hurting yourself during batting practice, that means that something wasn't set up properly. You didn't stretch right before you started free swinging and hitting hard balls. So I think you're right. I think that it speaks volumes about some failures in that strength and conditioning program there.
Yeah. But, back to the Dodgers, just to put a post mortem on how miserable that was. You talk about a series that the Astros were truly lucky to win a game. Here's their slash line: 165, 297, 479 for the OPS. The 479 is barely is a nice slug. That's it.
Hmm.
They hit 400 with runners in scoring position. The only problem is, in the whole series, they only had five guys in scoring position, left 10 guys on base the entire the entire series. And weirdly enough, they had four home runs.
Yep.
If someone
Yep.
says baseball's a weird game, baseball's a weird game.
Yeah.
The starters ran to an ERA a little over 6, the bullpen a little ERA a little over 7. It was a butt kicking. I mean,
Yeah.
you saw the team that's a uh, the World Series contender, and the other team that's for the worst record in the American League right now.
Yep. Well, and I think, yeah, when you start looking at trends over the last 5 games, the Astros are just hitting 228 with a 659 OPS. They've only scored 16 runs. But one of the things that's really concerning for me is 11 walks against 48 strikeouts. That
Yeah, and
that's that's insane.
let's you and I talked about this offline. It's a good time to jump into it now.
Hmm.
One of the things that was talked about with the new hitting coach Rodriguez coming in is they're going to have a new change in approach. They're going to take more pitches. They're going to work batters or work pitchers. They're going to take more walks. And we saw, especially in the first three series of the season, ending up with the Red Sox, it was working. They were averaging
Yeah.
getting over 4 pitches per at bat. You'd like it closer to 4.5, but They were getting 6 walks a game, and they were scoring 7 runs a game after the Red Sox. That number has slowly declined to where now, for the whole season, they're averaging about 3.85 pitches per at bat. They're down on average to 3.76 walks per game, and they're scoring 5 runs a game. Keep that in mind. To bring that number of walks per game down from 6 to a little under 4, you have to be averaging 2 to 3 walks a game to be able to
Yeah.
bring that number down to where it's 376. So earlier in the season, we said, can the Astros hitting hold up until the pitching catches up? That hitting is much more inconsistent typically than the pitching. You can have good days, you can have bad days. Pitching, if you've got a great pitching staff, it tends to show up more often. We're seeing with the Astros scoring 5 runs a game and giving up close to 6. What happens?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the even one of the bigger problems is that these stats. I mean, even though as a team they're ranked fifth in OPS or something like that coming out of Wednesday's game or something like that.
It's
But
front end loaded.
these stats are so front end loaded, man. Without Jordan and Christian Walker, um, it's you're hurt. And Correa, I mean, let's say now that Correa's gone for the season. I mean, Jordan's still sitting what 1.075 OPS. Walker's a 963 OPS. I mean, the offense as a whole looks good on paper, but you remove Correa and you continue to ask Jordan and Christian Walker to carry everything. This lineup really starts to feel a lot thinner when you're running out a bunch of quadruple A replacement guys. Out every night. And, I mean, give Shoemate a pat on the back. He did some good stuff over this series with the Dodgers. Bryce Matthews continues to somewhat figure some things out, and he's doing well. Cam didn't have a horrible series, but as a whole, this lineup, you can't continue to rely on three guys to make this team go. You
Well,
can't keep the engine running on a third.
that's exactly right. You look at the outfield we had; it was Zach Cole and was in center. And against the Dodgers, it was Coles in center, Smith in right, and you had DeCenzo in left. People were talking, "Hey, DeCenzo's back. DeCenzo's back." Yeah, look, these guys have more talent in their hangnail than we have in our entire bodies. But when you on the MLB level of players, these guys are just dudes. They're not dudes; they're just guys. And,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
and
yeah.
Zach
When
Cole's
you
had a
see a
couple of.
lineup card, you see a lineup card that says Dustin Harris, Zach Cole,
You won't see
Cesar
Dustin anymore.
Salazar. Well, no, but yeah, Braden Shoemake, Bryce Matthews, you know, Zenzo. It's man, you went from a lineup card that had Altuve, Correa, your. I mean, it was just this thing is just kind of it's just falling apart, and not to
Well,
continue
yeah,
to
well, and
hit home about
it's
that, but
it's not a
it's
lineup that's going to make your toes tingle. That's for sure.
no. But at the same time, these replacement guys have an opportunity right now, I
Yeah.
think, and if they really want to make a name for themselves, and do something, now's the
Here's
time.
their
I mean, these
chance. Yeah,
replacement
here's their
guys got to
chance.
become a star because enough of them to stop the lineup
Yeah,
from
no,
becoming just
no
two
one.
scary hitters and seven survival at bats every night is not a remedy, and it's not a recipe to win.
Yeah, it's not Jordan Christian and the Seven Dwarfs.
Right. Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, we touched on it. We know that Correa's gone for the season with that ankle injury. Yiner Diaz with his oblique. Talking about that maybe taking longer than they really anticipated. So obviously Christian Vasquez will take over the primary catching duties, which a lot of people have been woohoo about. This is what they've been asking for. So Wally and I have been indifferent on it because if you look at the back of the baseball card, as Mr. Jeff Bagwell says, The last 2 years of Christian Vasquez being an everyday guy has not gone all that well. So obviously, we want it to go well here in Houston. And if he's going to be that guy, we want him to do well. But don't be surprised when we see, a return to Christian Vasquez sea level. Cesar Salazar, called up from AAA as the backup. Again, another bunch of group of people felt like he should have probably gotten the opportunity at the beginning of the season. Um, we'll see what happens. I don't think either of those guys have a ceiling that Yainer Diaz has with the bat when this team needs bats in the lineup. But this is frustrating because Yainer was just starting to kind of heat up, and we talked about his last 14 games on the last show, and what he was really kind of getting at, and we'll see what happens there. Lance McCullers,
Just
not a surprise to say Lance McCullers and the word injury together.
Yeah, that was kind of a weird one though. You and I were texting during the game. People think that you can just take a catcher out and plug him in. You
Right.
get catchers that work with pitchers and they get used to working with pitchers. And yeah, Salazar worked with guys during the spring. But you get into the season, it's a different ball game, and they get under the fire and they get used to their rhythms in big league games. You saw on Wednesday what happens when you try to plug a new catcher in
Yep.
behind a pitcher that's not familiar with him. He and
Yep.
Salazar were not on the same page all day. You could just
Not
see
at
it.
all.
You could
Yep.
see they just were, I don't think anybody was blaming anybody else, but they did not look at it. They did not
Nope.
look well. I mean, the only thing that Salazar had going for him is that Fromber wasn't pitching.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you
And
see? Did
yes,
you see the
yes, yes, all,
broadcasters?
all,
Did you
all
see the
Astros,
broadcasters
yeah, all
on that
Astros
Detroit game
fans.
that he beamed Story, and the broadcaster was like, well, somebody protect his catcher because he's going to come back from this pissed off if he doesn't get thrown out of the game. It was so bad.
Detroit, the Detroit Tigers fans found out what it's like when Fromber goes off the reservation.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that curveball for McCullers wasn't Salazar wasn't used to it, and call it what it was because McCullers was burying that thing. A couple of them were McCullers' fault. A couple of them, the one between Salazar's legs. You texted me, you're like, "Whose fault was that?" I said, "A catcher can't let a ball go between his legs.
No, I
Period."
agree with that 100%.
And so I think they both have a little bit of fault when it comes to the ugliness that was that whatever that was. So yeah, man, I don't know. I mean, this current pile includes Correa, Yiner, Hunter Brown, Josh Hader, Christian Javier, Emai, which apparently he's probably going to get a start this week at some point, is what it's looking like. Pena's doing baseball activities. Jake Myers is doing baseball activities. Loperfido, I don't know what's up with him. And then of
Hunter
course the
was
old,
throwing.
Hunter's throwing. Okay, yeah.
He was throwing,
Loperfido,
but
Blanco, Wisniewski, Pearson, Trammell, and the list just goes on. The
yeah,
Astros
yeah.
could almost literally field an entire team with obviously a lot of pitchers just off of their injured list alone. It's crazy.
But on the flip side, a team that's really exceeding expectation that is Tampa.
Yep.
And let me tell you, if I ask the casual fan, I threw names like this at Yandy Diaz, Ryan Vilade, Junior Caminero, Jonathan Aranda, Johnny DeLuca, Ben Williamson, Nick Fortis, Cedric Mullins, Taylor Walls, Shane McClanahan, Drew Rasmussen, Steven Metz. Now then, Mets fans might know him.
Yeah.
Nick Martinez and Brian Baker. Okay, Griffin Jacks. The average fan would probably know a third of those guys, and they'd
If
say, "Oh yeah,
that.
I think he's a player." You
Yeah.
got to give them, but you got to give the Rays credit. When you looked I was watching them play the Red Sox tonight, and they're really aggressive. They
Hmm.
force the other team to make plays. That they're fourth in stolen bases major leagues. When I look at their other numbers, they're 15th in runs, 19th in OPS. The pitchers, they're plus 15 in runs, and they're like 28th, almost the bottom in errors and fielding percentage both. The pitching is these. They've got pitchers like Shane McClanahan, who's got a 2.60 ERA, Drew Rasmussen 2.95, Nick Martinez 1.71, Brian Baker's closing with a 2.40. They got guys that are pitching over their heads. And I
Mm-hmm.
just don't. You got to wonder, can it continue? If same thing in reverse with the Astros. If their pitching holds up, you hope their hitting can get better and they can make a run.
Yep.
Do
Yeah. I
you
mean,
believe, which
the
one do you
Rays are
believe in more?
winning.
Do you believe in their pitching, or do you think their hitting is going to get better, or what happens?
The Rays.
Yeah,
That's they just keep finding a way to win. I mean, and that's the thing. I feel like I don't watch all their games. You can keep up a little bit with what's going on around the league, and they're one of what? What did we decide? They're one of
I think
four.
there's four
They are
teams in the
one of
American League now
four:
have been winning.
Yankees, Rays, Guardians, Athletics. So they're one of four teams that are above 500. A plus,
15.
shoot, where did it go?
Well, it's 15 now. It's
Plus
plus
19
19
after
because it
tonight.
was 15 going
Plus
into the game
19.
tonight.
Yep. Plus 19 after tonight. They're 5-1 against teams over 500. 14-4 at home, 11-8 away.
Won nine of their last 10.
7 game win streak. Won 9 of their last 10. I don't know. I mean, again, the league is a little weak right now, and
A little.
they've only played 6 games against teams over 500, but there's not a lot of teams over 500. So,
Yeah.
but I don't think the Rays are winning like they're a fake good team, right? They're winning like they're a team that just keeps finding ways to win. One night it's pitching, the next night you see good contact and great defense. I think that when you look at the Rays, what was it? What did we say? It was 13 consecutive games allowing 3 runs or less
Until tonight.
before tonight. So I think when you really look at that and you look at this team as only 19 plus 19 run differential, I think this speaks to a surprisingly and weirdly good pitching staff.
Yeah, people wonder why. If you look at the run differential, give it time. That run
Yeah,
differential norm eventually comes back to play. At
sure.
19 run differential means they're outscoring their opponents by little under a half run a game,
Yep.
a little over
Yep.
half run a game.
Well, you've got
So
you've got Nick Martinez with a 1.71 ERA.
and he's not that kind of pitcher.
Rasmussen has thrown 37 strikeouts. Brian Baker's got 9 saves. 25-12 record. I think that they're kind of doing the things that the Rays always do. They turn a weird, small, quiet pitching staff into this puzzle that other teams have to figure out and solve because there's no big book written on these guys.
Now, and you got to give them credit. They're doing what you're supposed to do, and you're playing bad teams. You ought to win.
Yeah.
They
Yep.
go to the Red Sox. They're now what 16-22. You know, they should beat the Red Sox because that's a bad team.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They
give
should. I
them
mean, the
credit for
Astros did.
give
So.
them credit for doing what they should do, what they're supposed to do. I, I just don't buy the lineup for long term. They make the playoffs? Yeah, they could. Yeah, every one you get now is one you don't have to get later.
Later. Yeah.
Um,
100%.
you got in that division, Toronto's, you expect it's going to get hot. Baltimore, yeah, they're playing about like a 500 team right now, and the Red
Yeah.
Sox aren't very good.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
There's lots of. We'll have to get into some of these other stories at the rest of it, but there's some teams like the Tigers with Tarek Skubal being out for 6 weeks or so. Fromber doing Fromber things. I mean, he can. You talk about a guy that's the girl with the curl. When he's good, he's good. When he's bad, he's
Oh
horrid.
man.
Golly Moses.
Yeah. 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 It's the oh poor Detroit fans. Nobody
Man,
believed us. I don't think
just grab
anybody
a
really believed us.
yeah, just grab a bucket of popcorn and watch Fromber because it's going to be fun. Well, it could be
Yeah.
really
It's
good. It
always
could be
gonna be a
really bad.
story. There's always gonna be a story behind it. Oh man. Well, the Astros
The
hit the
Astro,
road
yeah,
to Great American Ballpark in the city of Cincinnati, state of Ohio. So as of now, it looks like Burrow's going to take on Lodolo on Friday. Arrigetti's going to take on Chase Burns on Saturday. And as of right now, it's TBD for the Astros on Sunday versus Andrew Abbott. I feel that we may end up seeing Imai on Sunday,
yeah. Well,
based on what some of the things that Joe was saying when he was interviewed about it.
yeah. The only thing I can say when Emai takes the mound is duck. The
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
the Astro,
Man,
the
this whole
Reds.
situation with Imai, I'd love to see this guy figure it out. I think everybody would
I
love
would
to see
too.
this guy figure it out.
I
But
would too.
one of the things that he needs to do is he needs to quit meeting with the meat. They need to close the door on him.
Yeah.
They need to put a lid on it and tell him to quit talking to the media because it doesn't help because then all that stuff gets replayed.
He says some
And
dumb things.
two, he just needs to. It's just ridiculous.
He's
It really is.
he says some things that somebody who with the media department said, Tatsuya, don't say this.
Yes,
You know,
please.
just just
Where's
say
the coaching?
something. Just say something real inane that they can't make a story about. But
Yeah, yeah,
in the Reds, you're getting the hitting that is the equal of the Astros pitching. They
right.
are
Yep,
they are last. They're minus 30 in run differential. They've got the worst batting average in baseball by 10 points. Their slash line is 219, 385, 689. That's stinks. They're
yep,
26th in OPS. They are 21st in runs, so they're figuring out ways to score runs that exceeds what their peripherals are.
yep.
And one reason I think is they're 12th in walks. They're putting guys on base, and just for folks listening, it's a good numbers around 8% walk.
Yep. Yep.
Fielding
So
percent, but they're also catching the ball.
yeah, good defense
They're
there, huh?
catching the ball. Their pitchers are down towards the bottom of the league. You've got Chase Burns, who's good, 241 or he's got 41 innings, 220 ERA, and a 1.02 WHIP. The other guys, Abbott, Louder, and Brady Singer. I didn't check Lodolo, but they're above five with WHIPs of 1.4 and a 1.4 to 1.6.
Yep. Well, I think that tomorrow Burrows, you know, he's going into this series with a 5.97 ERA. Here's my thing about Burrows is this series is important to me because this is the start of 13 games in 13 days, and we cannot crush the bullpen starting this with this series. So
Yeah,
we
and I
need
know.
Burrows. We need Burrows to get length. It's not to me. It's not really even about winning game one. It's about not wrecking the bullpen on the first night of a 13 game stretch with no off day in there. He doesn't have to be brilliant, but I mean, we need him to
I
we need
think
him to
they do
save
need to win. I think
six
they do
innings.
need to win tomorrow because
Well,
Chase
I'm not
Burns
saying
goes
don't
on.
win, but
Yeah, but Chase Burns goes on Saturday, and Chase Burns is a good pitcher.
yeah, well,
Burrows. I see
against
Burrows numbers,
Arrighetti.
but yeah, I see Burrows numbers, but just something to me feels like he's a better pitcher than that.
I don't
Is that?
disagree. I don't disagree. And I'd have to dig in. I'd have to dig in a little bit deeper, but I feel as though I feel like he's attacking the zone better than it appears that he is. And I don't know what his movement and what some of that other stuff is like. I don't know where his hole really is and why that ERA is where it
Well,
is.
He,
I
you know,
feel
he
like
had a
his lack of versatility. I mean, he's only got four pitches. He relies. I know he
that should be
relies
enough.
primarily he relies on two of them. And so, I don't know if he's showing something that people are figuring out, or if there's something deeper to it. Um, but I
But
don't
what
disagree with
Ryan,
you.
what he does is what he's had done so far. We saw it in the game. We had 4 2/3 perfect innings. He tends to get hit with the big inning. He gets somebody on base and he has a tough time working out of it. The other night
Yep.
when he lost 3-1, all 3 runs were scored on a home run.
Yep. His
You know,
fastball.
he
His
get
fastball is the problem.
so you
His
know
fastball is the problem. Yep.
so we'll see. I hope he does well. I still think it's a good trade because we essentially got him for Jacob Melton, and Jacob Melton is in minor league ball with Tampa. So for all those guys that said Jacob Melton was the second coming, you know,
Yep.
he's he's so far proving to be the same player in Tampa as he was here.
Yeah. So his fastball is only a 26% zone range. So there's the deal. When you're throwing your fastball, you got to get more around the zone. Changeup looks
He,
good. Slider hits well down and away. Sinker looks
you
nice.
on Baseball
The
Savant?
curveball hits the curveball hits just under the zone. It's his fastball is by far his least effective pitch. Uh,
Major league hitters, if they can get rid of one pitch and just look for the other stuff, they're going to hit you.
yep, 100%. Yeah,
That's
his swing take profile is not good against righties with that fastball. So that appears to be his problem. He can't keep it. He can't hit the zone with his fastball with his four seamer.
Yeah, and he doesn't throw especially hard to where he's going to make them get on, stay honest with it.
No, not 95% average with the four seamer. 95 mile per hour. Sorry, 95 mile per hour
Which isn't terrible,
average
but
with the
it's
four
it's not
seamer.
98.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Under
just
pitch
see with the
Sample.
Astros, and we'll see what they do this weekend. You know,
Yeah. Well, we'll
it's
need we'll need
it,
Arrighetti to be Arrighetti on Saturday, and then I think key matchup. It's going to be game three. We're going to have to figure out who's throwing, and the thing about Great American Ballpark is it can reward power, right? And so with
very
Jordan and
can.
Walker and Paredes, it's a good hitter's park. So you've got chance to put some over the fence. Night one against Lodolo. Burns is good. Abbott, I think he's hittable. So this is a series that the Astros could, they could do something, but we need pitching to go. We need pitching to go the distance because we're going to have to rely on
They
this bullpen throughout this 13 game series stretch
the
here.
Astros need to, as far as pitching and everything, they need to remember the first rule of holes. You know
Yeah.
what that is? You know what
Yes.
that is? When you're in a hole, quit digging because
Yep.
they've got to go. They've got to go like 75 and 54 to get to 90 wins. And that,
Yeah.
the more every series
Or
you lose, it becomes harder
90,
and harder and harder.
90 wins might not even be the threshold right now as far as everything is with the way that
Yeah,
everything
you
is
might.
looking around the American League. I mean, shit, you might be able to. Oops. Well, I might have to hit that one. You might be able to win. You might be able to win a division with 84, 85 wins this year.
You might. You might.
I don't.
'Cause
We'll have to see.
I still see Seattle being the best team. They just took a tough series against Atlanta in Seattle. Took 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. We talked about how good Atlanta's going to be.
Yep.
Seattle. I think Seattle eventually
Seattle,
wins the division, and they win
Seattle
it
is
pretty
just as
easily.
bad. Seattle is just as bad as worse than the Astros against teams over 500. Four and
Just, I
six, and
just
The Astros are 4-5.
Yeah, but just looking at Seattle and looking at what they've got, and they've got guys like
Sure.
Cal Raleigh's not hit yet. They got a lot
Well,
of guys on that team.
he might not. He might not. I was one of those
Yeah, they
guys
may
who
have
said
taken his prescription away.
that was an anomaly year, man. That was not Cal Raleigh. The dude had
Yeah.
never hit over 30 home runs in a year and then goes
Well,
off
they
on
may have
one year
taken
like
his
that. Like,
prescription away.
yeah, yeah.
But we'll see.
They just might have. We'll see. We'll see. Man.
Alrighty.
Well, the Dodgers series showed us both sides of the Astros right now. There's still enough talent here, I think, to steal a game or two from somebody. Anybody? Lambert proved against Otani and the Dodgers. Little wrap here. The injuries and pitching chaos and a thinning lineup are turning every series into a stress test for these Astros. But at some point, Houston has to stop being the team with a good excuse and start being a team with a good answer. So
Yep.
for now, we'll see you guys after this series with Cincinnati. It's not a soft landing. So I think that the next test will be whether this team can stabilize before the season slips away and before the rest of the American League starts winning a little bit more, because this division is not, it's not locked up by
They're only,
anybody yet. So
they're only out. They're only 4.5 out. Look at
yep,
Toronto. Toronto is 9.5 out.
yep.
So
I'm
the key
I'm I'm
number, that
not
is a key number.
I'm not done. I'm not done.
You keep on
This,
telling yourself that.
I'm not giving up. I'm not done, man. I know. I'm gonna keep telling myself. We're gonna keep rooting for our boys in the orange and blue. And yeah, we'll be here pretty much after every Astros series, talking Astros baseball and some other chit chatter around the MLB. But that'll do us for tonight. For my man Wally, I'm Ryan. This was another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. Hey, give us a thumbs up and a subscribe.